I want to get into a discussion, a different topic. I'm going to go off beat for a minute, but it's still hip hop centric, and that is spirituality. It is my belief that you cannot be a part of the culture, you cannot be a part of the hip hop culture, or fully enjoy this experience unless you have a level of spirituality. Why do I say that? The definition of hip hop is self expression. So when you express yourself, you're delving into the spiritual realm at that point. Very important. That's how come different MCs, different rappers, they all have their own unique DNA, a unique DNA way of explaining themselves or explaining their experience, within life. You could essentially say that all of life is spiritual. Now, I want to get off topic and I want to talk about something. Not gonna lie, I drink, and I enjoy my drinking a little bit too much. So recently, I put the bottle down, and been getting more and more into spirituality. Now, this is gonna go off topic, but this is something that's been on my mind lately. And that is the topic of remote viewing. We're going to go into conspiracy land a little bit. Remote viewing. What is it? What is remote viewing? Remote viewing is basically, how can I put it? Your brain can pick up on certain frequencies, right? And once your brain picks up on a certain frequency, you're able to see things, like in the Bible, they will call it having a vision, or even in Islam, sometimes they will call it having a vision. But a lot of people, they don't know what that means. I'm going to take you back to my first experience. And I'm saying all this to make a point, but now we're going to story time. This is story time. Years ago, after I graduated high school, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, I had a wild experience. During this particular time in my life, I was not smoking weed, no substances, or nothing. Not to say I've never smoked weed, even back in grammar school, I did enjoy the occasional blunt. You know what I mean? And I smoked from time to time, even in high school. But after I graduated this particular time, all sobriety, I was working out, I was eating healthy, drinking plenty of water, plenty of fluids, all that good stuff, that a typical young person is supposed to do when they graduate, along with trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. So I was at home on this particular day. I remember watching TV, and I remember like going to bed to lay down. You know what I mean? I'm laying down, literally, and I'm staring up at the ceiling. And then something happened, swear to God, that scared the hell out of me. I'm trying not to cuss. I do have a foul mouth, but it scared the hell out of me. Like all of a sudden, I was just laying there. I was just staring at the ceiling. I wasn't asleep or anything like that. All of a sudden, I'm outside and it's nighttime. I'm looking at the moon and I'm seeing a bunch of clouds like cover the moon. And then all of a sudden, it spooked me. It spooked me so hard, and it was just real quick, and it was real brief. But in this moment, it was just a quick moment, just like that. It felt real, and I couldn't even explain it. And then after that, like, it was a wild hiatus. I was reading all type of books, even when I was going to college, because I went to like a local community college during that time for a few years. I was reading all of these books, and I was talking to all these spiritual people from all different practices of life, trying to figure out what in the world this experience was. Going to flash forward, you know. I'm going to flash forward a few years, Unfortunately, your boy had to do like Kanye West and do the college dropout. So at this point in my particular life, I'm not going to say where because I don't want to give away my location per se, but I was working overnight as a clerk. And I had another individual working with me. Me and this female, we worked overnight, and we would talk about all type of stuff, and we had all type of customers from all walks of life just come in shopping, buy what they need, get what they need to get, and go. Sometimes I would stop to have a conversation with them, it'd be a good conversation. Other times, it's just you keep it cordial, you keep it casual. But one particular customer came in one night. We're going to call him, I can't give away his real name. I'm going to call him Robert. So Robert, he comes in, just a random guy, middle-aged white gentleman, you know what I mean? And he used to always come in, and he worked, I don't know if he worked at a pizza shop or he owned a pizza shop, or he was like a manager of these pizza chains. I don't know. But he used to bring in these bomb pizzas. I'm not going to say where the pizzas was from, but they were fucking bomb. He was like, look, sometimes we get customers that call in and then they'll cancel on us, and then we just got all this leftover pizza. He did not want to throw it away, and because he worked at a pizza spot, he got tired of pizza, so he'll come to me and my coworker, a lovely female, and he'll hook us up with all different kinds of pizza, and it was bomb. At first, I was a little skeptical. First couple of times, I did not eat the pizza. Did not even touch the pizza. My coworker, and she was just tearing it up. She took it home, she loved it. And after a while, after the fifth time, I was like, okay, maybe I'll try a piece, right? So I'm looking at the pizza. I'm expecting the pizza. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is bomb. This is fire. This is bomb. This is fire, And so he'll come in, and then every now and then we'll talk real briefly, Then he'll get back in his car. He'll roll on to the crib, So during this time, about a year or so later, it's around a year later, because I worked at this spot like a couple of years, right? So about a year later, he's a regular guy coming in at this point. The strangest thing happened. Right down the street from where I work at, it was a little shopping center. And in this little shopping center, they had a grocery store, and I would go up in there to buy groceries and whatnot. But they had a karate place, right next door. It was a karate place. And I was like, man, because I was looking up online. I've always been into the martial arts pretty much all of my life. There's something that's always I've been interested in, whether it was wrestling, boxing, whatever. But I wanted to learn some Hapkido. It was a taekwondo place, and I saw that they were teaching Hapkido, and I was looking at Hapkido videos on YouTube all the time. So I decided to walk my happy self up in there and talk to the master. His name was Master Kim. I do believe I could say that. There's a lot of Kims. Y'all never figure it out. His name was Master Kim. And good old guy. He was like in his 70s, but he moved and had the agility, I kid you not, of like a 20-year-old, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He was like one of those, Taekwondo master, Hapkido master. And he even had pictures even on the wall where he took up, where he did Western boxing, which is just modern boxing. So it just wasn't no bullshit, martial arts. This was the real deal. So I said, I'm looking at her. I say, y'all have adult classes? Yeah, we have adult classes. And he's explaining the whole thing to me. Adult classes was Monday, Wednesday, and I believe Friday. 3 days a week. You allowed to come in 3 days a week and take the adult classes. And no, and one of them was during the daytime. Yeah. The one on Wednesday was around 12 o'clock noonish. So I'm like, look, I'm off on Wednesday, and even if I got to work, I don't got to work until overnight, so I could come in and take that class. I want to learn a new art. I want to learn a new field. You know what I mean? So I said, how much is it? It was $115 a month, I was like, that's weird. So my first day taking these classes, what was his name? Robert comes in there unexpectedly, and he walks in with his wife, and let me tell you, very, 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 very gorgeous woman. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. He comes in with his wife, and I'm in the middle of these classes, and I'm looking back at him. This is like was it my first day? Or was it the second day? It was during one of them first days. It might have been sometime during the first week, but he comes into his class. It was definitely on a Wednesday, 12 o'clock in the afternoon with his wife. And he's just standing there with his regular clothes on. You know what I mean? He's just watching us, the participants in the class, as we're taking the class. So the class is over, and Robert, he goes to Master Kim, and he's inquiring about learning Taekwondo. I guess him and his wife, they wanted to do some extra activities, and they wanted to learn, this discipline, this martial art. So they come up in there, and so they start taking the classes, which is weird. I'm like, yo, the pizza guy, like, I can't believe it. It was just such what a small world. It was just very. What are the odds? What are the mathematical calculations of that happening at that particular place? I would imagine running into people like that at a grocery store, or let's say we at a gas station. Not when I'm in the middle of class learning a new martial art discipline. I mean, just, and it was just so random and unexpected. So the second time, it was like the second, third week, some shit like that. He comes up to me. He introduced me to his wife. We're going to call her. What are we going to call her? Because I don't want to give away her real name either. We're going to call her Diana. Robert and Diana. And so this is my wife right here. It was a pleasure. And I was very cordial. Hey, how you doing, ma'am? It's a pleasure to meet you. Just very cordial, And he was like, she has something to tell you. Like if you got a moment, like if you could just talk to her for a moment, She has something very important to tell you, and so after class, I change clothes and everything, go to the back, change clothes after the class, and I'm talking to her. Now I'm not gonna go fully into detail because then that's gonna be going into conspiracy land, But I'm gonna be realistic about this. Again, we're talking about remote viewing. She was like, I saw something. She was like, I wrote your name down on a piece of paper, and she was like, I do this practice every single night where I think about something, and then she's able to travel to that time, or she's able to see a particular person where they at, what they doing, pretty much remote viewing. But at this time, I did not know what remote viewing is. I did not know anything about remote viewing. Keep that in mind. But she's telling me all this stuff, about myself, and then she's asking me all of these particular questions, and so I'm answering the questions, and then she telling me a Pacific. She went back and she saw me during a Pacific time period. She, and I do believe in reincarnation. She believes in reincarnation as well, and she's able to, see these images, and she's able to see. I mean, go deep into the shit. You know what I mean? It scared the fuck out of me, but I believed it. It was something about this woman. And normally I do believe this because I worked overnight during this time period and I interacted with so many different people. I'm a good judge of character. Something within me told me that this woman isn't lying. I wasn't able to get all the information that I needed, but she told me, and what she described pretty much was essentially remote viewing. She's able to see things on a different frequency. She's able to, when you remote view, sometimes they're even able to see images or see things back in time, or they could see you where you at right now. You know what I mean? They remote viewing. Well, I'm gonna get into all that later. Because it was started by the Soviet Union, and they were doing it during, I believe, during the World War II era to monitor U.S. soldiers and see what they were doing. Then the CIA picked up on it, and then they started doing the same thing to them and experimenting with it under Project Stargazer. So I'm just gonna get into it now. So we're gonna get all that out the way. But keep in mind, I did not know what any of this shit means during that time. And she didn't even explain it. She didn't even explain it really or go into detail. Didn't even give me a name of what it's called or anything. She say I meditate, and then all of a sudden these images pop up and she's able to look at these things in different times and, and write them down and record them and give them to people and tell them about themselves. And like, it was like some weird psychic phenomena going on. But everything she said, and I'm not going to go into detail for specific reasons, everything she said, and then she was just telling me about myself and my life, was accurate. It was very accurate. And this is stuff that I never even told her husband, what did I call him? Robert, about. I'm not going to give away his real name. I never even told him about this. So, and then me and him, whenever he came inside while I was working there, it was only for a brief moment anyway. He'll stop in 3-4 minutes. He drop off the pizzas, then he dip. You know what I mean? He going to do what he going to do. But she very beautiful woman, by the way. Very beautiful. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was hoping that she'll come up to your boy and you know what I mean? Just, hey, you want to hook up sometimes? I was hoping it'll be one of those low key. But that's another subject for a different day. Hopefully I meet them again somewhere. I meet her, But he was a nice guy too. No diddy. But So, she's telling me all this stuff. I'm completely blown away by it. Completely blown away. Flash forward. I quit going to that spot because during that time, $115 a month, it was too much. I quit going there. I did see Robert. He still came in and drop off the pizzas, and we'll talk from time to time. Eventually, I end up quitting that job too because of unfortunate circumstances. But before I quit that job, it was another customer that came in, and I can't even remember this guy name. I'm just gonna call him John. But another customer I came in, I had met. This guy was really deep into philosophy. He was really, 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 really deep into philosophy. He was the type of guy that you would see at your local Theosophical Society. He's that type of guy. You'll catch him at the local Theosophical Society. And whenever me and him discuss certain things about history, religion, and politics, whatever, I say, hey man, where do you get your information from? Where do you pick up some of these books you tell me about that you read? It was at the local Theosophical Society. And sometimes he'll bring me books. He was like, hey, man, I was reading this book about Buddhism. He'll just drop off a book. I go home, I would read it, I would check it out. He even brought me a book about Jesus and the Buddha. That's the title of the book. It's called Jesus and the Buddha. Great book. And talked about how Jesus was essentially in a way, he was a Buddhist, and it compared Buddhism to Christianity. But a great book. And he introduced me to like people like Alan Watts. Like before I met him, I didn't even know who Alan Watts was. So just to tell you how deep our discussions went. And one day he came up in there and where I work at, where I used to work at, and he brought me these CDs. He was like, "Hey man, I want you to try these CDs out, man. It is really mind blowing." So I was like, what is it? He was like, well, he's explaining it to me. I'm gonna explain it to you. Basically, you have to put these headphones on, listen to the CDs, and what it's gonna do is gonna sync your brain together. And just by listening to it and listening to the sounds on the CD, it gives you the experience of a monk that's been meditating for 30 years. It syncs your brain up like and like on that level. It gives you that, they call it that. There's a particular name for it, but I believe it's hemisync. Hemisync, that's the name of it. But it syncs your brain up on a certain level where it gives you the meditation like of a, you know what I mean, like of a monk. Like all you gotta do is just put it up on there, quiet your mind out, and just listen to these beautiful sounds. So, and this was during the CD era. The CD era was still around during this time period. So that lets you know like what year we talking about. So he brings the CD. I take the CD home, and I put it on, and I'm listening to it, right? And on the CD, they play a sound in your right ear first, and they play a sound in your left ear first. And then they got these other sounds going on in the background, but you're listening to waterfall, you're listening to the rainfall, and it's so peaceful. I mean, it's so quiet. And then all of a sudden, it happened again. You know, this time, I'm standing outside smoking a joint, and it's just in the rain, and I'm just at peace. Mind you, I'm inside the house, by the way, while all this is going on, but these visions that I talked about earlier or whatnot, it happened, and I felt it. And this time, just like how old girl Diana described it, I'm seeing visions, right? At this point, I'm seeing these visions, and I'm like, yo, I'm like, look at that, And I even went back to ancient Egypt. I'm like, yo, what am I doing here? You know what I mean? It was almost like some Assassin's Creed type shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm just back in a certain time and I'm listening to it and I'm viewing all these images and the images just started flowing in. The moment I put this tape on, the images started flowing in. Crazy. So after that, my mind was boggled, but I did not want to go back into that rabbit hole again. I did not want to go back into that rabbit hole again until recently. The other day while at work, I was very tired. I was very, you know what I mean? I was like, yo, I was fighting to stay awake. And then I said, how about I just close my eyes just for a few seconds and then boom, it happened again. So now, like, I'm back on it all of a sudden, and I'm back on this wave of trying to figure out what this is. So I did recently figure out what it was. I did not even know the name of the CD earlier, but it was eventually. It wasn't the exact Hemisync tape experiences, but it was based off of the Hemisync tape experiences. This time they just give it to you and you just close your eyes and you just meditate. But it's a part of pretty much that same program, and it works. It works. And recently, so I started doing that. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm going back into the meditation. I'm going back into the Hemisync. I want to, and I am currently practicing. I'm trying to learn in the process of learning remote viewing. I am in that process right now, and during meditation, I am practicing remote viewing. Believe it or not, like as wild as it may be, I believe honestly, it is a real thing, but I don't believe that is what some people on YouTube classify it as. Like it's this one YouTuber I was watching the video about on remote viewing, and he's able to close his eyes and oh, I see it, and he's able to describe what he's seeing. I don't think it's nothing like that. I think you have to be alone and your head has to be in a particular space to access these images. Because I'm looking at a lot of remote viewing videos on YouTube, and they're not lining up with what I've experienced. Some people, they have these coordinates, right? Where they just write these coordinates down on paper, then they give it to you. You have to close your eyes and tell them exactly what you see. To me, it's not no guessing game. When you get these images, the remote viewing images, they come to you, they real, and you feel like you're there in that place at the exact same time. Like the other day, I was practicing this, and the reason I'm practicing this is because I want to stay clear of the alcohol. I want to, kick the habit. You know what I mean? I want to replace it with positive habits. You know what I mean? But the other day when I was practicing this, all of a sudden, boom, I'm back up in Egypt, and these dudes was moving some blocks, and I was just sitting down. They was coming my direction. I was like, yo, let me get up out the way, and they was all working. It was just a whole bunch of workers, and then they had an architect like guiding them around, and I don't know how I knew, but I could tell I was in ancient Egypt. But these images, like when they come to you, particularly the first time that it happens, it's gonna scare the crap out of you. Even the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. And I've had it now about 6 times, and even to this day, right now, it still scares the crap out of me. But the only way I'm able to access it right now is through these meditations. So I'm practicing these meditations like on a day-to-day basis. And let's go back to hip hop because this is underground perspective, and that is what hip hop is. You have to have a form of spirituality. Tupac asked a great question: Who do you believe in? You know what I mean? Who do you believe in? You know, hip hop was created by black Americans, and black Americans, we do have some roots up in Africa. You know what I mean? And then some more places, but we got some roots up in Africa. And before all this technology and everything started, like people were really spiritual. You know, even when you look at the hieroglyphs on ancient Egypt, the Greeks, every civilization, every society, had a form of spiritualism. Even to this day, either you're a Christian, you're a Muslim. Some people practice Zoroastrian. You could be Zoroastrian. You could be a Buddhist. Every country, they have a form of spirituality. You could be Tibetan Buddhism. You know what I mean? But and that's something that we can't escape from. Look at it this way. In a way, and this came to me, original thought, and I don't want to hear nobody stealing it. Original thought. But everything has an opposite, right? Check about it. You got solids, you got liquids, right? What do they call that in computer science? You got ones and you got binary and non-binary. You got ones and zeros, right? The laws of relativity. What goes up must come down. You have the sun, you have the moon. You got fire, then you have water. You got night, you got day. If there's a natural world, then there must be a spiritual world. Like when you look at it, it only makes sense for there to be a spiritual world. When you look at it, that's how come I can't trust the atheist. You know what I mean? Because, and this is my best argument against the atheist, will prove to me that what you're saying is true. Everything has an opposite. Life itself is based upon calculations, and when you put the calculations together, it only makes sense for there to be a spiritual world. You got land and then there's air. Male, female. You get dogs, cats, you know what I mean? Everything has a opposite. You got regular ants, you got red ants, fire ants, you know what I mean? Like everything somewhere has an opposite. So it only makes sense. How is it possible that when human beings go to sleep at night, we have these dreams? And when we have these dreams, they so realistic. We wake up, we sometimes wake up sweating. You know what I mean? We can't even explain what the dream was the phenomenon of having a dream to this day. How is it possible? There's no VR headset hooked up to my head. You don't have a VR headset hooked up to your head. You know what I mean? There's no computer chip that's hooked up to the brain. How is it possible that us as human beings are able to go to sleep at night and we have these realistic, vivid dreams? And this also is, dreams are like a gateway to the spiritual world in a sense. You know what I mean? That's all dreams are, a gateway to the spiritual world. That's how come there has to be some truth to it. And this is another proof. Think about this. Human beings on a daily basis, we only use 3% of our brain. It's 90%. 96% of the brain that we don't use. You know what I mean? Think about if we were able to use our brain at full capacity, if we was able to do that hemisync and sync up our neurons in the place. Like that's how come I believe in this. But you have to have a form of spirituality. I'm not gonna go too deep. I done held y'all long enough as it is. This your homeboy, Underground Perspective, giving you my perspective. I do want to hear your thoughts and opinions, and I take all thoughts and opinions into consideration because that's what it's about. It's about us learning from one another and learning about the human experience at the end of the day. Hopefully, you one or two listeners, maybe three, maybe four, you have a good day. You know what I mean? And do something life changing. You know what I mean? Do something life changing. I do want to hear from you. Please like, please subscribe. Your homeboy Underground Perspective. Peace. I'm out.